gate. I talked about it being a symbol of duality. And there's some things about purple, even in the secular realm, that is very, very significant and very telling, very telling. And so we're going to look at some of these things today because purple was not only it was on the gate, and they're also purple throughout the fabric and the embroidery work in on the gate of on the gate and on the holy place and the holy of holies. Purple was integrated in the design, and so we're looking at this duality, red and blue. It's a mixture. And when you look at it's also a concealment. And we're going to get into that today too, because it's all about concealing something that is hidden. And so if we look at Numbers 4, and there was instructions given to Moses and Aaron about cover how to cover the tabernacle. And everything was to be covered and secure before they would travel. Make sure that everything was in perfect alignment. And anyways, so everything was covered. If you look through, everything was covered with blue coverings and with badger skin. But there was one thing that stood out that was not covered by blue, which I told the blue represents the breath of heaven, the breath, the spirit. The blue, hovered over the waters. It talks about there's being revived. It's a reviving, rejuvenating breath, the breath of God. Man became a living soul through the breath, through this inspiration. And so when we look at purple, there's enlightenment, and there's in the secular world, and some cultures believe that purple represents divine or divine enlightenment and transformation and awakening. So it there is a spiritual connotation with purple. There's something of the spiritual. There's a spiritual application in the secular world and different cultures concerning purple, because it talks about this renewing or transformation. And as we go through history, we're going to see how the enemy has transformed society to believe and to think, and how he has used uh, trauma, and how he uses trauma based mind control, manipulation, to be able uh, to transform men's thinking, people's thinking, to get an agenda. And these are kind of the things that, because there is a universal transformation that must take place before the beast system comes in full effect. So this is why purple purple is all about systematically changing direction. It's a concealment that brings in revolution. It brings in transformation, and it shapes the minds of the people to go in a direction, not necessarily uh, a direction towards God, but a direction towards the agenda that is being systematically put out forth to bring in a system of dominance and control. This is about imperialism, and to have complete control, dominance. There's got to be uh, a collective mind. There's got to be a worldwide acceptance. There's got to be a transformation that must take place. You must be transformed into the image that is going to rule over you. And we're going to look at that today, because when you look at Numbers 4, it says, at 13 verse, it says, and they shall take away the ashes from the altar and spread a purple cloth thereon. And they shall put upon all the vessels thereof, wherewith they minister about, even the censers, the flesh hooks, and the shovels, and the basins, and the vessels of the altar, and they shall spread upon it a covering of badger skin, and put it into the staffs. So when they were traveling, when they were preparing the the tabernacle in the wilderness to go through different sites and to set and take down. It was given to the sons of Aaron, the sons of Korahites, to bear the tabernacle upon their shoulders. And it also says uh, that they should not touch anything holy. Anything that was covered with blue was considered sacred and holy, and they were not to touch them unless they would die. But the altar was covered specifically with purple. Everything that was brass, the all the flesh hooks, everything pertaining to the altar service outside in the courtyard, they were covered with badger skins, which is uh, that that rare sea animal skin that was tough. It was weather resistance. And the altar itself, the brazen altar itself, was covered with purple, because the altar is all about transformation. And like I said, the earth, the earth in its purest form is is an altar. It's an altar. It's a this is where you are either you're going to get some kind of spiritual enlightenment, if if it's God transforming you, renewing you for a heavenly kingdom. You're going to be transformed here before you enter in. So the earth in itself is a place of transformation. Even the beast system is transforming people to be like the image that they worship. You become the idols, or you become the image that you worship. So there's transformation. You never stay the same. You're never going to be born. A person is not born and stays a baby. You go through stages of life life cycles, and you grow into adulthood, and then elderly, and so forth. So transformation and changing is part of of an earthly existence. You never stay the same. Gestation, there's gestation, 40 weeks of gestation is a transformation in the womb that is forming a human life. So the earth was underwater 40 days, and there was a rebirthing of a new earth. So it was getting rid of the old, and something new, a new beginning, a new life, a new birth was preceded after the flood. So there was a transformation, a turning point, a turning point. And the same, so Satan does the same thing. So purple is, it has to do with the earth, has to do with spirituality. Which direction are you going to go? It's a it is a it is it's a it is it's a it's a spiritual revolution. You're revolving. You're going to evolve and revolve into something spiritually, either it's from the kingdom of darkness or the kingdom of light. But there's you never stay the same. And this is exactly because Satan is he's at work. He's at work to change the humanity, to change humanity, to bring them into a spiritual awakening, a spiritual enlightenment. And so when we look, what when you start looking at symbolism and the colors, and you see, you see symbols, you see colors throughout the world, and these are like beacons of or emblems of what they represent and who they represent and where and what direction that they're going. So there is a falsehood. There is a falsehood, and there is an agenda to transform the God of this Bible, the Son of God, and even the Spirit of God, change them into effeminate, an effeminate image, to take away their characteristics or their attributes of being patriarchal, being masculine, into more effeminate, more sensitivity, loving, more docile, androgynous, acceptable, uh, to this normal society that has bent on emotional, they're more bent on emotional feelings of being in this stage of revolutionizing our thinking. They they don't can't set scripture as as what it is. They have to reinterpret it. They have to interpret it to the way that they feel it. It's an emotional feeling or how I feel about it. It's not necessarily what the word says and taking it as what it says. So there is a changing of the word. It's changing the interpretation of scripture and changing the direction. It is concealing. It's all about concealing the truth and forming or designing something that is contrary, because this is how the system, the anti-system, the antithesis of God is going to deceive, deceive many, because you put you put it out there little by little, bit by bit, and you change the mind to, or condition the mind to believe something, then that's what you're going to perceive. And so this is why transformation doesn't happen all at once. It comes through cycles, and it's lifetime of eroding away truth and bringing forth something that is different and deceptive, to obscure the reality, to cloud the truth, to bring in darkness. And so, but God calls us to, He calls us to truth and clarity, being clear. And so, anyways, when we look at purple, there's some things, because there's a when you look at some of these colors, scarlet, blue, not blue, but scarlet, purple, silk, and linen, you see the virtuous woman in Proverbs, saying the same things, that she Her heart is her husband, safety, trust in her. So it's, because when we look at Proverbs, we're looking at the wisdom of God, the 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 we're looking at the counter receptor, or the receptor of God's spirit, the receptor of his word, the receptor, the one that builds the house of God. This would be the church, New Jerusalem. This would be the earth. Anything, a counterpart, a counterpart. Wisdom is known as female, feminine. So anything that has to do with which has to do, which I think those are sometimes implied, but anything that has to be imparted, where you can reproduce after itself. So the virtuous woman is the glory of her husband, which is showing God, or the Father, or the Godhead, as this husband. And she builds, and she structures, and she produces, and she glorifies her husband. And these colors radiate from her. They radiate from her. And so, because there is, so who can find a virtuous woman for a price as far above rubies? I mean, this because this is all about coming into the kingdom, which all these colors, all these things, all these precious gems originated with God. They originated with God, and He instills them into His creation, and to receive back. So we receive and we give back. So these things are not foreign to the heavenly host. They originated with God. He structured his house. He, make the pattern of the tabernacle like unto the one in heaven. There's a duplicate, and these colors, these materials, these fabrics originated with God, and so they're not profane. It's just Satan has usurped them. He's usurped them, and now he's building up his own kingdom in the same fashion. But the difference is he's doing it outside of God. He's a God unto himself, and he's setting up his own regime. But he's using and implementing the things that were given to man, or given to the host, or God's creation, as one of being royalty, one of having precious jewels and fine fabrics, and having the best of the best. God is a kingdom, in his kingdom of light, his kingdom. When you look at the New Jerusalem, and you look at the coming from heaven, it has been built with the finer things of his creation, precious stones. And so she rises the while and yet night, and she giveth meat to her household, and portions to her maiden. She considers a field and buys it. She plants a vineyard. Her loins are strengthened. See, this is talking about the body of Christ, the church, those who are reflecting the image of God, the image, and He's building it up through. He's projecting, and they're reflecting. And so she stretches out her hand to the poor. She reaches forth her hand to the needy. She is not afraid of snow, for her household are clothed with scarlet. Like I mentioned before, scarlet has to do with the earth, it has to do with sin, wickedness, violence, scarlet. But then you have to go back to, or blood, but then you have to look at scarlet in a framework that she's not afraid of snow. And she maketh her covering a tapestry, and her clothing is silk and purple. So, I mean, we're looking at the gates now. Her husband is known at the gates. When she sitteth among the elders of the land, she maketh fine linen, and sells it, and delivers it unto the merchants. Strength and honor and clothing, and she shall rejoice time and time. So this is God's design for humanity, and to reflect his glory, and to be clothed with these finer things that he has created to reflect a heavenly image. But when you see this word, scarlet, so because she is not afraid of snow, or she's not afraid of the white, white or light, the eternal light, this light that, they say if you die, you got, a light comes, you look into the light, you go to the light. I mean, this light, it's a passing through life to death. It's a passing through, because it represents that light of, or tunnel that tunnel. Because when you talk about scarlet, you're talking about the life source of the earth is blood, scarlet. And so she's not afraid of death. She's not afraid of death. That's what it's saying. Because if you look in Psalms 88, which 88 means affinity, it is, she's not afraid of the land of forgetfulness. It says, "O Lord God of my salvation, I cry day and night before thee. Let my prayers to thee, incline thine ears unto my cry. For my soul," this is the pathing of the soul going into eternity. The soul is eternal. It's this passing through the white. Uh, uh, the soul is full of trouble, and my life draweth nigh unto my grave. And I count with them that go down into the pit. I am a man that has no strength, free among the dead, like slain, that lie in the grave, whom thou rememberest no more. How you rememberest no more, and they are cut off from thy hand. You're not afraid of this, because this beacon of of the crimson blood of the Lord Jesus will is the beacon to this pathway of being able to come into that light. Or you'll be cut off. Thou wilt lay me in the lowest of pit, darkness in the deeps. Thy wrath lieth hard upon me, and thou hast afflicted me with all thy waves. Thou put my acquaintance far from me. Thou hast made me an abomination unto them. I am shut up, and I cannot go forth. My eyes mourneth by reason of affliction. Lord, because this is an altar. This is where the deeps go into the earth. This is an altar. We are, we are here. My eyes mourn by the reason of affliction. I have called daily upon thee. I've stretched out my hands upon thee. But thou shalt wonders to the dead. Shalt thou dead arise and praise thee? Shall thy loving kindness be declared in the grave, or thy faithfulness in destruction? Shall thy wonders be known in the dark, and thy righteousness in the land of forgetfulness? That's the crimson blood of of the earth, and the covering of silk and purple, this transformation. That's what the altar is. It's a transformation to bring, because it says it's a covering of that scarlet. It is to bring us into, so when we go past the grave, or to the realm of the spiritual, we are found by God. We will not be lost forever in the land of forgetfulness, or silenced in the grave. But we will go on, pass through. This is why the purple was a cover. Just like the virtuous woman, she was covered with purple and silk, which was silk garments with, without spot or wrinkle, and with purple, because this is the transformation, where you will be transformed. This is the altar. And so this is why Satan uses the same patterns. It's the same patterns, because he's want to transform you into his image and into his likeness, and so that you will reign with him in his kingdom. And so, and he uses purple as a avenue, as an avenue. And you can't, because there was a transformation that took place in Babylon. When the children of Israel were captured and they went into Babylon, they had already rebelled against God. They already were serving idols. They were already had their backs turned, and they were weeping for Tammuz, and they were worshiping the star in the east, Ceres. And so God told them if they didn't repent, that they were going to go into captivity. Well, they went into captivity during the time of Josiah, and let me look. Let's see, because this is the Babylonian exile of the Israelites, specifically the kingdom of Judah, occurred in multiple ways between roughly 597 BC to 582 BC. Their primary dispersation was led by King Nebuchadnezzar II, with the most significant occurrence in 586, which involved the destruction of Jerusalem and the first temple. The major deportation of Nebuchadnezzar captured Jerusalem, taking King Joachim, leading citizen, and archons of the Babylonians. In 586 BCE, second and largest deportation followed 13-year siege of Tyre. Continued residents, the Babylonians destroyed Jerusalem and the temple. In 582, a further final deportation occurred to ensure total control. The return of the exiled ended with the fall of Babylon to the Persian king Cyrus the Great, who issued a decree allowing Jews to return to Jerusalem in 538 BC. The total period often refers as the 70-year captivity, roughly 605 to 586 to 538 to 516 BCE, marking the duration of Babylonian dominance and the period without a temple. Okay, so this is all about imperialism. During the time that they were, this was their exile. When they returned, they were under occupation. They were under occupation with the Medes and Persia, and then it was then the Roman Empire, and then you had the Ottoman Empire, and so and then they had the European British Mandate. So Israel, as a nation, as a country, as an imperial kingdom, had never existed after this captivity. They were always under occupation. They were always under occupation. And if you read in Daniel 2, if you read in Daniel, it tells you that, and it looks like almost like the temple, because the temple is of gold, and it's of silver, and it's of brass, and it's of iron and clay, fallen angels, and humanity were made of the dust of the earth. You know, it is such a pattern. It's such a pattern. Except God rules the heavens, and the kingdom of Israel never had world dominance. They never had world dominance. But the Babylonians and the Medes, this they never really, they changed names, but they really never changed gods. They never really changed because they were all family members, and I'm going to get into that. So there, even when we look in Daniel, we see Nebuchadnezzar, we see Belshazzar, and then we see King Darius, and King Cyrus is the grandson of King Darius. which was a Babylonian, Median, Persian. It was just they just overthrew, and they were all in relationship. The whole system is Babylonian. The gods they serve it's still all the same. It's just they changed names. They say but they're in relationship. They're all in relationship. So when King Cyrus of the Persian king, he was nothing more but a Babylonian king, because he came out of Darius, which was the ruler of Babylon during the time of Daniel. So he put even if he came from Persia, he ruled in the region of Babylon. And so all the captivity was, during the time of Daniel, and throughout. King Darius was their ruler, and he ruled from Babylon. So King Cyrus ruled from Babylon. King Cyrus was his grandson. So it's about imperialism. It's about world domination. And so if you look at Daniel, and there's a vision given. Says Daniel answered and said, "Blessed be the name of God forever and ever. For wisdom and might is His, and He changes the times and the season, and removeth kings, and sets up kings. He giveth wisdom unto the wise, and knowledge to them that know understanding. He revealeth the deep and secret things. He knoweth what is in darkness, and the light dwelleth with Him. He knows what's in. And I thank Thee and praise Thee, O Thou God of my father, who has given me wisdom and might, and has made known unto me the desires of Thee and the king's manners." And it says, "And therefore Daniel went unto the king, ordained to destroy the wise men of Babylon. He went and said thus to him, Destroy not the wise men of Babylon. Bring me before the kings, and I will show thee unto the king's interpretation." And he brought to Daniel the king's haste, and thus I had found a man, a captive in Judah, that will make known the king's interpretation. And this was at Belzazar, uh, and the interpretation. And Daniel answered, "The secrets which the kings has to man cannot the wise men, the astrologers, the magicians, or the soothsayers show unto the king, but there is a God in heaven that revealeth secrets, and maketh known to the king of Nebuchadnezzar what shall be the latter day. The dreams, the visions, and the heads upon the beds are these. As for thee, O king, thy thoughts came into thy mind upon thy bed, and should come to pass hereafter that you reveal a secret, maketh known to thee, shall come. But for me, the secrets is not revealed to me for any wisdom that I have more than any living, but for their sakes shall make the interpretation known to the king, and he might us know the thoughts of thy heart. The king saw us, behold, great image. This great image was the brightness and was excellent, stood before thee, and the form thereof was terrible. And the image head was fine gold, his breast of arm of silver, his belly of thighs of brass, his legs of iron, and his feet of iron and partly clay. So these world dominants, these imperial governments, totalitarian governments that lord over most of the regions of the known world, these were the headships, the rulers. And there's going to be this one last kingdom that will arise, and this kingdom, it will be partly clay and partly iron, but they will not cleave one to another. Thou sawest, and they cut off without hands, which smote the image upon his feet, that were of iron and clay, and brake them into pieces. So everything that Satan has done has been to counterfeit the image of God. And Babylon, from the time of Nimrod, and the stories of Nimrod and Semiramis have been played out through history. So this whole Babylonian culture she sits over the whore that sits over the earth. All the kingdoms of the earth have drunk of her wine. So this Babylonian system is the imperial government. It's the imperial government. It may be hidden, it may be a secret, and may not be known fully through the masses. Maybe only elites know, but the worship and the God behind this kingdom of gold, Babylon, which sits in the on the heights. We're showing this image is fierce, and it sits in the heights. Bright with brightness is the principalities and powers. It is the kingdom of darkness and the ranking powers of darkness, and they have the head of gold, and they sit in and rule in the spirit realm, and everything that is done on earth is geared to the Babylonian worship. Even the Bible and Christianity and religion is all under the guise of the Babylonian worship. I mean, even everywhere. I mean, you can't get away from all the traditions. Everything we have been consumed with Babylonian worship and tradition. It's part of our culture. It's part of our lifestyle. It's integrated in everything. Satan has coiled himself around everything. And so this head of gold as is the powers, is the power, the controlling powers, which is Babylon. It is hidden, but it's there. It's the mystery Babylon, mystery Babylon. It's in secret, it's hidden, but it will reveal itself. And the head of that is the king, which is kingdom of darkness, Satan. He sits as the head of gold. We see this in Solomon's temple. He set 666, 6 steps on this side, 6 steps this side, 6 steps this there, and he was surrounded by gold, surrounded by gold. He was lifted up on high, and I wrote that a lot in my book. And he is this depiction of gold. Uh, he uh, he had he had a kingdom of gold. Everything in his kingdom was made of gold, and he built a very productive and abundant. He was great, greater than Solomon is here. He was iconic, iconic. And so I was looking to see how much some of his gold was worth. Um, he had definitely more than enough gold. It says the weight of the gold that came from Solomon 1 year was 663 talents of gold. 6 talents of gold. And his gold came from his connection with the goddess worship, and so he worshipped the god of the east. Nimrod is the god of the east, and Semiramis or Istar was the god, the Istar or the the goddess that is that sits in proxy, that sits in mediation of the kingdoms of this earth. So this it says practical business ideas, noting Solomon's ever expanding network of commerce estimated he received about 25 tons of gold on an annual basis. Calculating the value of his gold alone in present day figure was 2,000 ounces. It is estimated at 64.3 million. In the 40 years of reign of king, the converted amount would be $64 trillion. Other assets converted to present day currency equals another $2.1 trillion. This is a figure nobody else had attained. Historians say this will never really known the totality of Solomon's riches. The wealth was so vast, it's hard for our minds to conceive. His kingdom became a central focus of the world. Wealth could not have come from from God because Solomon was not faithful to God of his fathers or the instructions of God in Torah. It was the kingdom of the darkness that helped provide Solomon with so much wealth that he compromised his walk with the only true God of Israel. So he says, you might, how exactly Solomon's net worth source says that one ever acquired as much gold and silver as one lifetime of Solomon. It was at his fingertips, and so plenteous that was a common pebbles. According to scripture, he ruled Israel for 40 years, and during each year he brought roughly $1.1 billion of gold. Solomon, however, possessed even more riches than just this gold. He inherited wealth from his father David. He regularly received gold and silver from kings of Arabia and from governors and merchants, and he heavily taxed his own people. And if that were not enough, he received tribute money from countries and kingdoms, plus gold, silver, ivory, animals, slaves, and etc. Every 3 years, because of this business partnership with the king of Tyre. And he garners other gifts in gold, spices, precious stones, garments, and armor. In addition, he had a variety of others that supplied him well. So he was definitely a man of gold, a head of gold, and it came from his connection with Babylon. His connection with Babylon. And so yeah, so but through this division, God told him that he would not separate his kingdom. It would be a kingdom of peace. Solomon's shalom means peace, and but through Rehoboam, he would divide, and so through divide and conquer, the kingdom withered away. So this kingdom that Solomon possessed and the wealth, he had world dominance. He had world dominance. He had world wealth. He had it was at his like pebbles. They were he was worth trillions of dollars, and he ruled that known world, and people inquired, and he put people in bondage and slavery due to his wealth. So he just so this head of gold has to do with Babylon. And like I said, so they went into captivity, and when they went into captivity, because of little by little, God withered away this kingdom, and Solomon's temple was destroyed. Not only did he also built a house for his wife, which was Pharaoh's daughter, and one of the commands says not to bring back unto Egypt. Do not bring them back into the gods of Egypt. And but he built a house, and every woman was a connection to their gods and their house. So his house became compromised. And not only did he do that, he also put his mother Bathsheba on the throne with him. So this was also forbidden, and these things became a contradiction to the image of God through the the land of Israel. The kingdom of Israel was supposed to mirror the heavenly kingdom, and in its splendor and in its glory and in its abundance. It was supposed to reflect, but God keeps things simple. He keeps things, uh, he keeps things, he's not very extravagant in some ways. He keeps things kind of simplified. If you look at the tabernacle, it's very simple. But as man interacts with the fallen, glory and splendor and having this notoriety, being this attention and desire for attention and affection and praise, these become the attribute. They want to be lifted up, they want to be glorified. And so they want to be, there's something within the human nature that Satan exploits, that wants to be lifted up, wants to grow in power, wants to lord over, wants others to worship and praise them. The color purple is all about nobility, that being elite and one of noble, a noble family, or noble, let's see, nobility, of honor. So there's, I'm gonna look at it. Ranking nobility, that's what I was looking. Nobility refers to privilege, social class, holding uh, uh, hereditary titles, a uh, high-minded, moral equality, Christiax, or whatever. I can't remember. I can't say it. Being noble, character, dignity, and integrity. But that's not what they're after. They're looking for that aristocratic. That's what it says. Titles that lord over the social classes. Uh, so this is to have that pedigree, the eliteness. Uh, so this is what purple is. It's nobility in the kingdom, and so this being worthy of praise, and having this type of recognition and honor, and to be glorified in the earth, you must submit. There is a cost. There is a submission, and you must bow. You must bow to the King of Gold, whose head is the image of gold. And so, and through these imperial, of Medes and the Persian and it's showing, it's just an outer court system, just like the tabernacle. That's all it is, showing that his desire, Satan's desire, is to rule the heavens. And when you start looking at these things, let's see. Let's see, you got the gold, you got the silver, you got the brass, you got the iron, and you got the clay. And then you got the iron and clay. So you got 5 to 6 levels, 6 levels that must be, that you must come through in Satan's kingdom. That will raise you into this, that just like this this narrow system. It's like a triangle. It's a narrow system, just like, because everything is a duplicate of God. It's a depiction of how God has framed work, his heavens, his thing. But Satan he's gone into the spirit realm, and he's narrowing it down, and he's making a triangle. And these are the levels. The levels. You got the earth, which is your base level, and now you're going to go up 6 levels. You got seven. You hear 7 heavens, or 7 clouds, or seven, because you're going up through 7 tiers, or 7 levels, to be able to achieve nirvana. or this utopia, or this transformation of coming into a satanic eliteness of 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 his abundance of the earth, of his riches and his glory that he puts um, upon humanity that worships him. You go through degrees, just like you go through degrees, in secret societies, fraternities. You go through channels of degrees to reach these peak places in their spirituality. Not only in their spirituality, they are transformed, and then their economical, financial status is changed as their character and their bodies and their minds are transformed more like the image of the enemy. So in Babylon, so we're looking at this structure. So Israel, after King Solomon, and after having seen this image, their whole lives was surrounded by this temple. And what a sight it would have been to see this kingdom. But this kingdom never completely had the promised land, all the dimensions of the promised land. It was short in its borders, but it had a reputation, and it was pretty known through the whole world. So it didn't have complete world dominance, but it had influence, world influence. People came all over to inquire, and there was a world power there. There's definitely a worship. Not more. It was more not like a dominance, but it was a worship as Solomon was being transformed into this antichrist, or this anti-Mashiach. He was being worshipped by the world. He was being worshipped by the world. And so anyways, when we looked, when God started to judge it, tear it down and destroy it, the 12, there was the tribes, the northern tribes, were into captivity to the Assyrians, and now only one that was tagged was this. It was Judah, Benjamin, and Levi that were in the southern part of the kingdom, and they were stayed a kingdom intact until God, dismantled them and took them into captivity. So this world dominance that the Lord promised them, that their kingdom would reign high, high above the earth. All the nations of the earth will come into it. There's prophecies given that their kingdom would be an everlasting kingdom, and it would be a great kingdom. That they would have it. It kind of depicts a world dominance, a world control, a world power. But God he was not not through flesh. This wasn't going to happen. This was going to happen through his son. But there's a usurping of these promises, because the word of God is yes and amen, and never returns void. And so this is why the achievement of obtaining this dominance. So when they came back from Babylon, a lot of things happened in Babylon. They lived there for, I guess, 70 years or more. And I was reading in the history of the Jews. It's not a religious book. It's just the accounts of the histories, and the life in Babylon. They were not oppressed. They were given freedoms. They were given freedoms in Babylon. They were able to set up synagogues, and they were able to continue celebrating their feast days. They commemorating all of their holidays. They were able to use their language. They Hellenizing the Jews, a lot of the Greeks and stuff. When the Greeks took over, they started to lose some of their identity, some of their language. So they really made it a priority to make sure that they would never lose their heritage. And so that the Babylonian Talmud was, and the rabbinical Judaism, and was formulated during the time of Babylon, during their captivity. And a lot of people didn't come and out of Babylon. They had life. They had a good life in Babylon. They were not under captivity in a way of slavery. They had pretty much, they had freedom there. They integrated with the societies there. They had tradition, and they kept their traditions. They went to synagogue. They continued their heritage, and they preserved their language, even though it was almost lost. But they just kept things. They were bent, and they knew that they were going to come back to the land. So they kept everything that all their history, and all the things that were given to them. They preserved them, and so their traditions, their language, and all the things like that. So so a lot of them came out, and a lot of them stayed. They stayed. They didn't want to make that journey back into the land. That journey back was rough. The rebuilding of the temple, there was opposition. There were problems. But when you look at the book of Esther, and this is where we're coming to, when we come to the book of Esther, you're going to see purple. You're going to see purple, because the book of Esther has been written during the time of the exile. I believe it was either coming out, someone wrote it during it, because it was found in the Babylonian Talmud, extensively been talked about during the Babylonian Talmud, and it's in the myth. The myth. They hit about Esther being, let's see, what actual events or a fairy tale. And the book of Esther, and it says, is widely debated, with many scholars viewing it as historical or ancient fanfic rather than strictly historical record. Common myths include it being a straightforward fairy tale of a virtuous girl, whereas it is actually a complex story involving assimilation, sex, and violence. So the historical accuracy, while it is accurately described the palace layout at Susa, the book is considered by many to be a fictional romance designed to explain the origin of Purim. So the actual events that this took place is questionable, and it is more like historically it was a myth, suggesting King Xerxes' only official queen was Amethyst. Some scholars, however, argue that Amethyst is a Greek form of the name Esther once the suffix is removed. The absence of God. The major point of discussion is that God is not directly mentioned in the book of Esther, this leading to the theme that God worked through hidden providence rather than miracles. So, independence from Purim. While the book explains Purim, many scholars believe the story of Esther and the festival of Purim were originally independent and were linked together later, retelling other myths. So, Xerxes, I believe it was the grandson of Cyrus. Let's see. Find Yeah, Xerxes primarily identified as Xerxes of Persia. The book of Esther uh, was a grandson of Cyrus the Great. He was the grandson, which Cyrus was related to Darius. And it says, and founder of the Persian Empire, the son of Darius. So Xerxes was the son of Darius and the grandson of Cyrus. So they were all in relationship. I mean, they all were, family related. You know, closely related, not distant relatives. They were closely related, and was the daughter of Cyrus. Others, so Xerxes was the grandson of King Cyrus. So, this all kind of took place after the decree of King Cyrus, saying that they could be released and they can go back to their homeland, because Jerusalem was under their occupation. Babylon, the Medes and Persians, the Greeks, all of them, it's all imperialism. It was all under occupation. And so when King Cyrus says that you could go back, you can go back. So this novel was written, it was written during the time of the return. But the funny thing is, you can tell through this book, there's very, because one thing about this book, there's a lot of things that are concealed. They are concealed in this book, and there is an agenda. And if you look really closely, you would start to see a lot of the Babylonian traditions being infiltrated and formulated into this fiction novel, of coming out and wanting to rule, not as king but as queen. There's something about the queen is, Esther became queen, because this is the heart of Satan. I mean, he's androgynous, the queen of heaven. He's he's the diamond in the sky. He's the Venus, and you find Venus in here, um, because he's the queen of heaven. He's the angel that transformed. See, his kingdom can't be patriarchal. It's effeminate. So he's a drag queen. He's effeminate. He uses stealth, deception, hidden things to deceive. He's no longer, he's no longer masculine. He's no longer warlike. He has to use effeminate tactics, to get manipulative, controlling tactics to get his rule. So this star in the east, if you look Esther, Esther, it doesn't mean Estar. It means star of the east, series. Because if you start looking at some of the colors and some of the words that are in mentioned, if you in Esther, even though it has uh, a triumphant storyline, one of prevailing, one of coming from a peasant, lower class, and elevating to royalty, coming into a royal kingdom, into a royal palace, and being, doused and beautified with all the fragrances and all the eloquence of a luxurious kingdom, being paraded and being glorified amongst your peers or your known the known classes of the world of the kingdom. This is all boosting up. It is all a boost, and then having a villain. I mean, this is really storytelling. It has a villain that's going to annihilate them, and the Esther comes back and rescues everyone and turns the heart of the king, and then Mordecai becomes second in command, and then they hang Haman on the gallows and destroys those armies and saves the nation, and saves the people from annihilation. I mean, it's a good plot. It's got all the characters, heroic. Got a villain. It's got all the characteristics of a of a fantasy of something. And I'm not taking away from the storyline. What I'm in in the hidden in the hidden things that are being portrayed, there's a story being said without being said, because it's the agenda. It is the agenda of Satan's kingdom. Satan's kingdom. And it says, I'm going to read, and because if you look at Esther, the word purple is in there. Esther 1:6. And it says, and I want to go, it says, and in the third year, let's just go read the first one. Now it came to pass in the days of Xerxes, which reigned from India unto Ethiopia, over 170 provinces, that in those days when King Xerxes sat on the throne of his kingdom, which was in Shushan, the palace. Okay, Shushan, if you take that, it means lily, lily, which Lilith is a goddess. Let me go. Lilith is a goddess. And her counterpart is she's in Jewish legend. Lilith, yeah. In mythology. Lilith is a feminine figure of the Mesopotamian and Jewish mythology, according to the accounts in the Talmud. She is a primordial she demon based on medieval Jewish folklore. Lilith says she has fled from Lilith said to have fled from the Garden of Eden because she did not want to submit to Adam. Lilith does not appear in the Hebrew Bible or any biblical source, although her name is derived from a single word of the book of Isaiah. That means, which is debated scholars. She first, because it means twisting of the light, or twisting of the light. The meaning, which debated by scholars, she first appeared in Medium Jewish, because she's obscurity. She's twisting the light, and she's not. There's definitely obscurity. The Jewish sources from late antiquity in his incarnations that incorporate a short mythic story that gives partial descriptions of her. She is mentioned in the Babylonian Talmud. In the Babylonian Talmud, uh, a hot, fiery female who first cohabited with man. Some biblical authors include Maimonides and reject the existence. The name Lilith seems related to a masculine Akkadian word, and it is male vibrant Lilith, and the Lil root is shared by the Hebrew word Lilith, appearing in Isaiah 34, which is brought to be a night at night bird by or an owl. Scholars such as Judith Manblair, Mesopotamian religion, according to the Syrian texts and Babylonians, are classed demonic spirits consisting of adolescents who died before they could bear children. Many have connected her with the Mesopotamian demon, who shares similar traits and similar positions in mythology. So she's the twisting of life. She's obscurity. She 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 is found in the Talmud. And so when you look at the word Shushan, it means lily, lily. So there's things in here which has been kind of incorporated. Some of these things that they had inherited and some traditions and things have gotten, uh, incorporated through the traditions and rabbinical uh, scholarship has incorporated a lot of these things inside their religion. And she's a rabbinical literature. Lilith is a various depiction of a mother of Adam's demonic offspring following her separation from Eve, the first wife, whereof Eve was created from Adam, from Adam's rib. So, I mean, these things are inserted through mythology. So she said, and she was made from the same soil of Adam, insolently refusing to be subservient to her husband. Lilith left Adam and the perfection of the Garden of Eden, and an angel tried in vain to force her to return. According to some mythology, her demonic offsprings were sired by an archangel named Samuel, and were now Adam's progeny, and the children are sometimes identified as incupid or sub incupid or subcupid demons, or succulus or inseculus or something. But anyways, so we see that in Susan, Lilith, and also the word Adar, another thing that kind of depicts it being something that was written in Babylon and was influenced by the mythology and the traditions there, that they had adopted the calendar was created during during this time, and you go through scripture, and the word Adar Adar is only found. There is no other. Nisan is not found in scripture. Elu is not found in scripture. All the other Talmud is there, but it's not about for the calendar. But there only the word Adar is found in there. Purim is during the time of Purim, and it has been incorporated in there, and you only find it in Joshua. And I thought that was kind of interesting, because when you look at Adar, and you put it in there, it talks about Adar, Joshua 15:3. It talks about those lands, and then the territories of the uttermost parts of the south coast, the southern borders, where the shores of the Dead Sea, from the bay that looks southward. It was out of the south side, the pass along Zin, ascending up south side unto Kadesh Barnea, and passed along Hezron, and went up to Adar, and fetched and compassed at Kedah. From thence it passed towards Ammon, and went out into the rivers of Egypt, and the goings out the coast were the seas, This shall be your south coast. The east border was the Salt Sea, which is the Dead Sea, even the end of Jordan, the end of Jordan, the Jordan River, and their borders in the northern quarters was the Bay of the Sea and the uttermost parts of Jordan. So up in those regions were Sodom and Gomorrah and all those five cities on the south side, eastern south side, up the King's Highway, you find Adar, went up to Adar. And so there's something about this region and the location, and the borders went up to I mean, around Reuben and all them, that the enemy has definitely squatted on. These are the good lands. If you look at something beyond the natural, these are the lands of Transjordan, the lands of Transjordan, and it's a land of transformation, a land of which direction or go. So God has set bars. The Bible says He has set bars. He has set bars in place of these places. Uh, He has set and He breaks up it by decrease, and He sets up bars and doors so that it says. Uh, He brought them out of darkness and the shadows of death and break their bands in sunder. Oh, that men would praise the Lord for His goodness and for His wondrous work to the children of men. For He has broken the gates of brass and cut the bars of iron asunder. Fools become of their transgression, and because of their iniquity are afflicted. Their soul affordeth all manners of meat, and they draw near unto the gates of death. But then they cry unto the Lord in trouble, and He saves them out of their distresses. So He puts bars up there where that that and and secures these pleasant places, the pleasant lands, the pleasant. So, but there is something in the spirit realm. There's something that Satan it desires. He desires those, because it says that the Antichrist goes to the glorious lands, or the pleasant land. Glorious. Let's see. I think it's pleasant lands. He makes his way to the pleasant lands. There, I saw it a while ago. So there's and God has set boundaries. He said He's brought borders and bars where no one can pass through, but only it allows them to break through. Yeah, and out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceedingly great towards the south and towards the east and towards the pleasant land. So this is exactly where it says Adar, right here in the pleasant land, in the land of abundance. Adar means glorious. Adar means glorious, and you see it in Esther, and you see it once in Joshua, and I think in Nehemiah, I believe. Adar, yeah. Yeah, only in Esther that you find, in Ezra. And this house was finished on the third day of the month of Adar, which was in the 6th year of the reign of Darius the king, after King Cyrus. So Adar, see, these words are showing you where they're wanting to go. They want to go into that pleasant land. They want to go to that glorious land, not only in the natural but in the spiritual. And this is and the only way they're going to get those areas, it is through this. Uh, it's through the Babylonian way, the Babylonian system, the spirituality of man reverting, changing, transforming into the image of this beast, this image, and because man is the only one that can unlock the door. The only one that can unlock the door. Adar is the 12th month of the Jewish calendar, known for the increased joy accumulating in the holiday of Purim. It is a time often associated with Hebrew Adar, meaning strength, an increase in fortune. Adar refers to a character in the Rings of Powers and RNA editing, with symboling including a month of joy, Purim month, and the Lord of Mordor. Mordor. So Adar is an indication that they're wanting the pleasant lands. They want the glorious land. They want to come into a royal kingdom. Melkut is also another word, Melkut, which is found on the tree of the Kabbalah tree, which means kingdom. They're looking for an everlasting kingdom, an eternal kingdom without the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. They want their own king, their own leader. They want to do it outside of God. And when you look at this, Adar is mentioned in Joshua. Adar is only mentioned in there in Joshua, Ezra, and Esther. And when you look at the purple in Esther, purple, it's a reddish purple. Let me see. And Mordecai went out from the presence of the king in royal apparel of blue and white, which are very significant, and with a great crown of gold, and with garments of fine linen and purple. And the city of Shushan rejoiced, was glad. So that purple is kind of like a reddish purple. It's not. It's like the purple of wine. It's a wine color purple, and when you think about that, you think about the grapes or the wine or the blood wine. The royal of wine is abundance according to the state. They gave them drink in their vessels of gold, and the vessels being diverse one from another. So, and this is good. So let's go back. So where there were Esther 1, where were white, green, and blue hanging fastened with cords of fine linen and purple to silver rings and pillars of marble. The beds were of gold and silver upon the pavements of red, blue, and white. Red, blue, and white. Where do we see red, blue, and white? Who has red, blue? What country has red, blue, and white? Hmm. That's a red and blue and white with stars that look like we'll get into. The vessels being diverse one from another, and royal wine in abundance, according to the state of the king. And the drinking was according to the law. None did it compel, for so the king had appointed to all the officers of the house that they should do according to every man's pleasure. And also Vasti, the queen, made a feast for the women in a royal house which belonged to King Xerxes. On the seventh day, when the hearts of the kings were merry with wine, he commanded the seven chamberlains to serve in the presence of the king, to bring Queen Vashti, and she refused. This is showing refused to come to the king's command by his chamberlain. Therefore, the king was wroth, was burned in anger. This is women's rights, women's showing liberation, women's liberation. That's what Lilith stands for: feminism and women's liberation. Uh, uh, Counterproductive to the design that God has created women to be, and it's also counter culture, women being independent and feminine. It's showing a counterculture identity, which we see throughout the generations, to bring about this new revolution, because it's been transformation throughout the kingdoms of this world through counterculture. Uh, Counterculture, you start with one of the wholesome agenda. Well, you start with a wholesome traditional way, and then you counter it with rebellion, and you say, well, that traditional way is oppressive, that traditional way is abusive, it's affliction, it's it's hardship, it's poverty, it's it has many facets if you stay within the traditional scope. So we must counteract this with a countercultural revolution to change the format, format of the original design of how traditionally God designed. This is where you get these movements that change the direction, change the wholesome family, and the patterns of life, and this is where how life becomes obscured, and it doesn't get any better. It brings division, and it brings confusion, and it removes people from their assigned roles and their responsibilities. So it doesn't change anything, but we feel very we feel very empowered, empowered through these changes. Not necessarily good changes, but through these changes they empower, and they empower the system that is transforming humanity. And so the king said unto the wise men, because it's all about the red in the purple. It's the blood. It's the blood that must see. The blood must be changed. The blood. The Because blood becomes trampled over, it becomes delusional, loses its identity, it loses its traditional uh, uh, foundation. It's no more fundamental to historical traditions or biblical tradition. It now it stands on its own. But the blood is changed. It becomes to be transformed spiritually. The blood has to go through cycles of transformation. The cycles to to cause men to move them in directions. They have to be changed from the DNA, and it's not just the act of sin. It is the whole design, your nature, your whole blood, the body, this is where confusion begins and breeds. This is why people they become boys become more effeminate, women become more masculine, and it's through birth. They're birthing these things. They're birthing, because it started with a small amount of a blood transfusion that has been interjected into society through spiritual transfusion, through demonic transfusion, which is reshaping and reorganizing and recreating something within the human soul and the human body that is transforming them into another life type, another. And this is where you get trans, you see the actual the formation come through, even through. This is why people say, well, I was born like this, because it's coming through the third and the fourth generation. And so these spirits are coming through, and they're reshaping and redesigning and reformatting something that has been in this in the system, in the cycle, through a spiritual enlightenment and awakening and transformation that is revealing itself. It's revealing itself. So this is why this androgynous, with it, which is asexual, you're a non-binary, meaning that you're not one or the other. You become a non-created being in the sight of God, because God made man male and female. So it is within that purple, but that purple reddish wine, it has to do with the blood. It has to do with the blood and the transformation, and all through social engineering, we are starting to see these transformation take place. And I wrote a little bit about that here, because and this is why people are confused. But this has been the agenda. This has been systematically happening through the ages, and Satan rises up through different different countries that have a communist background, neo-Nazi, the pink swastika, and these dictators and their regimes or whatever, how they become so brutal and cruel and so uh, insolent and so evil, is because they're being transformed. When you take God, the Bible says, you take God out of the equation, a country who forgets God, it turns into hell. It turns into hell. And hell stands right at your door. And so it says, and so let me read about Purim before I read this, because Purim, it says, the theme of the theme of concealing and revealing one's true nature are prevalent both in Purim's story and in the traditional ways we celebrate it. For example, Esther, which means not it just means it doesn't mean, it means the star of the east. That's what it means, the star of the east. Conceals as then revealed her Jewish identity is ordered to save her people. Additionally, the character of God is concealed, and God's name is not mentioned once in the entire book of Esther. Although, from the Jewish perspective, God is one who is pulling the strings of redemption. This is an article I'm reading, behind the scenes. What God? What God? Purim is the invitation to dress up a costume, which is a mask. It's a mask. So anytime you put on a mask, you're no longer yourself. You become the character of that mask that you have put on. You're no longer you hide play actor. It's hypocrisy. You know, Satan. You know, his one of his initiation is for people to dress men to dress like women, and people put on a mask. You know, we that he puts actors and people that are in movies that are wholesome but very in their personal life. So there's a duality. There's a picture of duality there that it's not always what it seems. So you can look at a person in this movie. He's very wholesome, iconic, admiring person, but but in real life he's perverted. So it's such a contradiction. So he's always playing in our minds this contradiction, and you may consciously not realize it, but subconsciously and spiritually it speaks to the human soul, and that's how things are transformed. Things are not always what they appear. Things behind the scene are not always wholesome, but they're evil. The things that are in front of us are hidden, but what we see on the outside looks so innocent. This is the way Satan gets his job done. So you're concealing your true identity, your true reality. There's a When you put a mask on, you become the character of the mask. You're no longer that person. This is why you see people in the occult world will and even executors and people who are do they put a mask on because they become a different person under that mask. They will without that mask they wouldn't do some of the heinous things and vile things that they would do with the mask on. It changes a person. It changes them mentally and socially and naturally. It changes a person when you put on a mask. And this is what Esther is all about. This is what the celebration of Purim is a concealment. It looks very, very heroic. It looks innocent and pure. It looks like God is behind the scene. But what God are they talking about? And is it telling a story of reversal? Because when you look at the name uh, Xerxes, which is not spelled Xerxes in history, it means I will be silenced and poor. See, it means that all other kingdoms. I mean, so Xerxes, the kingdom of this Shushan, a Persian king that was ruling, which is not spelled like it is in history, but in the Bible it means I will be silenced and poor. So the whole storyline concealed uh, to the writer was, oh, this great king that turned a nation around and saved a nationality or a race, and brought up a poor peasant woman into royalty, is actually trying to come in to usurp the kingdom and bring down your kingdom through to silence them and to bring every other nation that rises above this clan of people will be silenced, and they will be made poor, and we will rule over through this Babylonian system. We will be the imperial government. We will be the world dominance, and we will silence every other kingdom and every other nation, and we will put them into poverty. That's what it's saying. So it's in reverse. It's in reverse. If you really look at the hidden messages. And also, Mordecai. The Mordecai means little man, but it means worshiper of Mars. Worshiper of Mars. So there is definitely a concealing of the true identity There's a mask. It's a mask. This is the purple. This is why Mordecai was dressed in fine linen and purple and brought into royalty because he raised in stature, because he actually worshiped the god of Mars and not the god of gods. And he was given notoriety and nobility through purple through his loyalty to the God he serves. And so, if you look at Zerubbabel, which is part of the exile, it means uh, what was sown in Babylon. What is the so God allowed them to come back, rebuild the temple for the sake of the Messiah, but what was sown, what was their agenda? What was their what was what was their purpose to return? And their purpose to return was to bring in an everlasting kingdom, a kingdom that all nations would fall under their superiority. That's the always the agenda. Zerubbabel, what was sown? What have they been in Babylon? What have they constructed in Babylon? What was their, what has been the identity behind all of this? What has been the agenda? What has been the motive behind it all? Because if you look at these things, Melkut, they want the Melkut, the kingdom of God. They want the Melkut, the kingdom of Solomon. They want, it's the crown. Melkut, that's the heavens. Melkut is the kingdom on earth, which in connections. And so if you look at Mordecai was the worshiper of Mars, and it says he was of the tribe of Benjamin, a Jew who returned from the exile during the time of Zerubbabel. That's why what's sown in, it says that what was sown in Babylon, Zerubbabel. That's what that means. That's what Mordecai means. He was a return from the exile under the with Zerubbabel. So it wasn't for the agenda. It wasn't for the agenda of coming into under another kingdom or another rule or another imperial government or under another occupation. That's not been the uh, the the stay of their existence. They have patiently been patiently waiting for the promises that that they would rule the Abraham eternal covenant, that they would that you know their kingdom would reign. They would be over the kingdoms of this world. And Abraham was blessed. He says, your descendants would be as the sands of the seas and in the stars of heaven. And there would be and through his descendants, all the nations of the earth will come. And they would bow to that nation. And you see this because in, in this book, it's so telling. It's so telling. Let's see, let me finish. uh, Esther's concealed and then revealed Jewish identity in order to save her people. Additionally, the character of God is concealed, and God is the one who's pulling the strings, which we don't know which God. Purim is an invitation to dress up as costume as way to come out and reveal typically hidden or unseen aspects of ourselves. Additionally, the theme of celebrating our inner truth is one reason why Purim has become a particular resident holiday for the folks of the LGBTQ community. This story is one of the most beloved in Jewish community because it is positions Jews as powerful agents of their own destiny. rather than a victim of persecution. The Purim story is one of only a handful of canonical Jewish stories that heavily feature the complex lives, perspectives, and actual voices of women, feminism. Purim is an opportunity to center feminism. Esther faced limitations based on her gender and understand that women in her society are expected to be seen and used but not heard. While she doesn't change those social norms outright, she plays the long game and uses her wit and allures as women or to her advantage. Ultimately, because she plays into the gender role assigned to her without overly threatening the men in power, Esther is able to overcome social limitations and save the Jewish people. Today, she is considered a hero, Herodian, worthy of celebration and adoration. So it says the Purim story, which is modern southwestern of Iran, which is Babylonian, outside the land of Israel. So, and it all is about the Agai, because it's very interesting to know. One of the other things is Mordecai was from the tribe of Benjamin, which if you go to Agai, let's and the villain was Agai of the Amorites, which was killed by Samuel. So there was no descendants. There was never no descendants that that came forth after Samuel killed. They utterly, it says, they utterly destroyed the Amorites. God told them to go, don't leave anything, destroy them all, don't leave nothing living, not even the animals, not even destroy all of their belongings, destroy women and men, children, everything, destroy it all. And it says, and Saul said, I destroyed it all, and the only one that I kept alive was Agag the king, and Samuel killed Agag. So there was no descendant from the Amalekites, which Agag, Agag, he was destroyed. Every one of that clan was destroyed. And so with this story, if this happened in real life, it couldn't happen because there was no remnants of this nationality or that exist. It was totally eradicated during the time of Saul. So, but if you take Agag, and you take it to the law first mentioned, Ag, you go to Numbers 24:7, and this is where it's so hidden because during the time of Balaam, some cursed was to curse Israel. In Numbers 24, Balaam the son of Bora has said, and the man whose eyes are open hath said, he has said, which heard the words of God, which saw a vision of the Almighty, falling into a trance, but having his eyes open, he spoke a prophecy over Israel, and he says, how goodly are thy tents, O Jacob, and thy tabernacles, O Israel. As the valleys are they spread forth, as gardens by the riverside, as the trees of land aloes, which the Lord had planted, and as cedar trees besides the water. He shall pour the waters out of his bucket, and his seed shall be in many waters. And his king, this is talking about Israel, shall be higher than Ag, and his kingdom shall be exalted. God brought him forth out of Egypt, and he has as it were the strength of a unicorn, and he shall eat up the nations of his enemies, and shall break their bones and pieces them of with arrows. He crouches and he lays down as a lion, and a great lion, who shall stir up. Blessed is he that bless thee, and cursed is he that curse thee. And so Agai kingdom, naturally, spiritually, this has to do with the eggs. There's God is saying, I mean, this story is saying that our kingdom will not be inferior. It would be superior, because it has been spoken that we will rise above egg. They this this land, this nationality, or these people that have that had had just came when they came out of Egypt. They attacked him on the rear guard. They had been an enemy against Israel coming into the wilderness, and so egg has been a source of contention, and I believe they are the race of the giants. But in this storyline, it is saying that no other king, no other world dominance, no other imperial government, no other controlling force is going to suppress, or going to annihilate, or try to suppress, or bring in another annihilation, or going to come against. We are going to be greater. We're going to be higher. And this, if you really look at this is Satan. Satan, yes, is working within this Amalek king, but he's also saying that there's going to be no other King of kings, Lord of lords. There is not going to be any other kingdom higher than my kingdom. There's never going to be a kingdom that I'm going to be subject to. I'm not going to be subservient to any other kingdom. I am going to be the king of the world. I'm going to be the king of the world, and I'm going to use and manipulate the covenants of God, and I'm going to rise as high as the king of Ag, and in the or as any other king, or any other dominant force, and that is including the Lord Jesus Christ. That is what it's saying. This is why that enemy, they bring him back. They bring him back like he reincarnates and come back to life, and to afflict their souls and bring them under oppression. But this is spiritual. This is a spiritual revealing that I'm going to be Lord or sovereign. I'm going to be sovereign. And Satan is the one that is saying, I'm going to be sovereign. I'm going to be Lord. And I'm going to rule. I'm going to rule as king. And I'm not submitting or bowing down. Because if you look, and the people that follow him have the same mindset, and they have the same heart. They want to decide their king. They don't want an appointed king over them. They want a king that 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 they choose. They want a king and a kingdom that they have fabricated and brought into existence. They don't want a hidden kingdom. They don't want a kingdom that is concealed. They don't want a kingdom without observation. They don't want a heavenly kingdom. They don't want the King of Kings, an appointed king that requires righteousness and holiness. No, they want an appointed king. Not an appointed king, but they want to appoint their own king. I'm sorry. They want to appoint their own king. And this is that will rule them, because this is when you look at Benjamin, the tribe of Benjamin, it takes you right to Saul. It takes you right to this story in 1 Samuel 15. It takes you right to the heart of Saul, because Saul, his stature was higher than every other stature of man. He was they wanted a king. They wanted a king. Go to 1 Samuel and 1. Uh, God said, "Give him." They have not rejected. They have not rejected you, but they have rejected me. They did not want God to be their king. Let's see, where was it? And wait a second. So it was 1 Samuel. He said, "Give them what they want. Give them what they want." Uh, because because they have rejected me as king over them. And he said that they will oppress. Let's see. Yes, and the Lord said unto Samuel, "Hearken unto the voice of the people, and all that they say unto thee, for they have not rejected thee, but they have rejected me, that I should not reign over them." See, Benjamin is the son of my right hand, means that I want to decide who rules over me. I want to be the ruling power. I want to decide. The people want to decide. Not It's not about what God wants. It's not about how He's designed things. No, it's about what I want. I want someone to rule. We want to be like the other nations. We want to have someone to represent us in great stature, according to all the work which they have done since the day I brought them up out of Egypt, even unto this day, wherewith they have forsaken me and served other gods, so they also unto thee. Now therefore hearken unto their voice, howbeit yet protest solemnly unto them, and show them the manner of the king that shall reign over them. And Samuel told all the words of the Lord unto the people, and asked him for a king. And he said, "This will be the manner of the king that shall reign over you. He shall take your sons and appoint them for himself, for his chariots, for his horsemen, and shall run before his chariots. And he will appoint captains over thousands, and reap the harvest, and make instruments of war and instruments of chariots. And he will take daughters to be confectionaries, and to be cooks and bakers. And he will take the fields and vineyards and olive yards and the best of them, and give them to the servants." See, God said, I've given you this land. I'm giving you freedom. I'm giving you a personal identity, your own homeland, your own homestead. You be your own provider, producer, harvester. I mean, I'm giving you full reign to govern your own life. Just follow my instructions. I'm got with you, and man, we can rule together. But they didn't want that. They want to put themselves under the rule of a king, thinking it will simplify their lives, but actually brings more complications. "And ye shall cry out in the day because of your king, which ye shall have chosen you, and the Lord will not hear you." Nevertheless, the people refused to obey the voice of Samuel, and they said, "Nay, but we will have a king over us." So in their rebellion and in their revolution to change the status quo, to change the order of God, they wanted Saul as king. Saul became rebellious, and he wanted to parade and keep the king alive. He wanted to be glorified amongst the people. And this is the heart of man without God. And so when you look at the book of story, it ties right into this story of Saul, that I don't want the king that God appointed, that he has. I don't want that king. I want the king that is we can identify with. The king that more is like us. The king that wants to show power and strength and glory and splendor. The king that will rule, the king that will rule in other country with slavery. That's what that in the saying, it's the heart of Satan that gets into the people. They may not consciously say that, but subconsciously that's what they're saying. That I don't want God's freedom. I want Satan's freedom. That's what they're saying, which is not freedom, which is basically oppression. Oppression is enslavement, and bitter, bitter, bitterness and hardship. Uh, so, but this is the way that the mind gets twisted, bent, obscured. This is where, because they see, they want to be identified with the glory and the splendor of the world. They want the gold, they want the silver, they want the precious stones, they want the resources, they want to be lifted up. This was the heart. This was the heart of Saul. It says, and so the Amalek king, he said, now go and smite Amalek and utterly destroy all that they have and spare them not, but slay both man and women, infant, suckling, oxen, sheep, and camel, and donkey. And Saul gathered the people together and numbered them. And Saul came to the city and laid wait in the valley, and went down to the Amalekites. I'm just paraphrasing. Destroyed them, for ye showed no kindness to the children of Israel when they came out of Egypt. So the Canaanites departed among the Amalekites. So Saul, so they were being judged for their warfare against the Israelites coming out of Egypt. And Saul smote the Amalekites from Havilah until they cometh to Shur, that is over against Egypt. And he took Og, the king of the Amorites, alive, and utterly destroyed all the people with the edge of the sword. None was left. But Saul and the people spared Ag, and the best of the sheep, and the oxen, and the fatlings, and the lambs, and all that was good, and would not utterly destroy them. But everything that was vile and refused, they destroyed. So they only the best of the cattle they kept. Then came the word of the Lord unto Samuel, saying, it repenteth me that I have set up Samuel to be king, Saul to be king. For he has turned back from the following me, and has not performed my commandments. And he grieved Samuel, and he cried unto the Lord all night. And when Samuel rose early, he met Saul in the morning, and told Samuel, saying, Saul, come to Carmel. And behold, he set up a palace, and gone about, and passed on, and gone down to Gilgal. And Samuel came to Saul, and Saul said unto him, blessed be thou the Lord, I have performed the commandment of the Lord. And Samuel said, what meanest then bleating these sheep in my ear, and the oxen? And Saul said, these are I brought from the Amalekites, from the people, spared the best, and to sacrifice unto the Lord, and the rest we utterly destroyed. And Samuel said to Saul, stay, and I will tell thee what the Lord has said to me tonight. And he said unto him, and Samuel said, when thou wast little in thine own sight, wast thou not made the head of tribes of Israel? And the Lord anointed thee king over Israel. And the Lord sent thee on a journey, and said, go and utterly destroy the sinners of the Amalekites, and fight against them until they are consumed. Wherefore then you didst thou not obey the voice of the Lord, but didst fly upon the spoil, and didst evil in the sight of the Lord. And Saul said to Samuel, yea, I have obeyed the voice of the Lord. I have gone the way which the Lord sent me, and have brought Og, the king of Amalek, and have utterly destroyed the Amalekites. And the people took the spoil, sheep, and the chiefs of the things which should have been utterly destroyed, and sacrificed them unto the Lord at Gilgal. So they destroyed everything. And hath the Lord a great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifice, as I obey in the voice of the Lord. Behold, they obey. Obey is better than sacrifice, and hearken than to fat of rams. For the rebellion is of sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is of the iniquity of idolatry. So Saul became rebellious, and rebellion is a form of witchcraft, and stubbornness, being obstinate, stiff-necked, doing that self-willed, is as iniquity. This self-willed iniquity within. He was bruised for our iniquity, bruised. It is like idolatry. And because thou hast rejected the word of the Lord, also God rejected you as king, and he rent his garment, That means he ripped his kingdom out from underneath him. And just like Satan was rent from the kingdom. He was rent. And so this is just this is playing right to the story that my kingdom will never, my kingdom will be dominant. My kingdom will be supreme. My king, there will be no other king, and I will, and the people will appoint me. I will not be appointed by God. And this is this is the role that we're seeing. This is what we're seeing. The people are choosing who they want to have rule over them. See, they didn't choose David. The people did not choose. David was chosen by God. David was chosen by God, and Saul, through his jealousy and through his nature of evil within, Satan within, wanted to destroy the anointed of God, uh, and because he did not want his kingdom to rise above his. He wanted to be the king that was superior, and he knew David. He said Saul killed his 1,000, but David his 10,000. He didn't want any other king to rise above. And this is the story about Ag is about having no other kingdom rise above the in the earth, rise above the kingdom of Israel, the kingdom of this uh, lineage of kings that came from Saul. This, he was the first king. He had a heart. He had a heart that the people chose, and he had a heart to parade and to gloat, to dominate. His stature, he was higher than the average man. He showed prominence. He showed stature. He showed great, strength and power. And this is what they wanted to portray. This is what they wanted. And when he caught the king of Ag, which uh, was pretty with the king of Ag. Let's look here. What they came. They were from the Ned Valley, I believe, and they worked themselves. Uh, let's see, is it this one? Oh yeah, the Amalekites were a nomadic, warlike tribe in the biblical Negev Desert and Sinai Peninsula, inhabiting in the Negev Desert and Sinai Peninsula, situating south of the land of Canaan and between Mount Seir and the Egyptian borders. Their territory extended from Havilah to Shur, east of Egypt, placed them along the southern approach to the Israeli territories, primarily the harsh wilderness of the Negev and the northern Sinai Peninsula, allowing them to operate as radar, and they became very dominant. Uh, they were located as at the Rephidim during the Exodus, and in the areas of Ziklag and southern Judea region, and they reigned during the time of David. So they were definitely, they were located, but they were totally destroyed during the time of Saul. But they definitely were in the regions that were southern borders of Judea and as far north as Ephraim. So they were pretty spread out, and they were a force to contend with, and so they were definitely uh, were all over the promised land, and they were to definitely was uh, a race of giants that definitely had to be destroyed. Og, I think, came from the Amaleks, I believe Og, which he was a giant. So they were definitely the spiritually. This is saying that we are going that no one is going to rule in the promised land. No one's going to rule over us. We are going to be strengthened. We're going to take the borders that were promised to Abraham, and we are going to rise above every other king. All the kings of the earth will give their power unto him. So this is about dominance. This is about dominance, and everything else, like Ezekiel, will be silenced. Will be silenced and poured, made poor. And because they want the heart of the tribe of Benjamin, they want to rule in power and authority, both in the heavens and the earth, and they want the heart of Saul. They want to select their king. They don't want a self-appointed king given them by God. And so Hadassah, which became Esther, means myrtle, myrtle. And so this is all talking about, if you go to myrtle, the law first mentioned, and myrtle is a flower in Israel, that it says, like many other gods in mythology, Venus has several symbols associated with her. Many symbols include plants and animals and usually represents an aspects of themselves. These include roses and myrtles. Myrtles, common symbol of beauty, which were often worn as wreath and adorned into sash. So myrtle, Hadassah means myrtle. Myrtle are white flowers, and there are 5 petals of white flowers. And the common myrtle, in the Hebrew hadass, is native fragrance evergreen shrubbery prevalent in Israel, particularly in the Galilee, on the Golden Heights. It's Mount Carmel and Golden Heights. It has significant biblical, symbolic, and ritual roles, including as one of 4 species, Lavalas, during the festival of Sukkot, and symbol of peace and joy. So the messianic age of peace. So that's what Adasa means, myrtle. So, and it represents, and it looks like 5. It's 5, which is the 5-pointed star, which is the Eastern Star, is associated with that. So it's showing this Venus, which is in relationship to Myrtle, which Venus in mythology. Let's see. Venus is the queen of heaven. Is the queen of heaven. They made cakes unto the queen of heaven. So Venus is a Roman goddess of love, beauty, fertility, prosperity, acting as a crucial deity who brought joy to God, immortality, identity with Greek Aphrodite or androgynous. She was reversed as the mother of the Roman people through her son Aeneas, and a goddess of gardens and agriculture. She possesses ability to influence love, sexual desires, and victory. She represents fertility, both in nature and human life, and could bring good fortune or prosperity. Born from seed formed after castration of Uranus. She appears as a full-form adult. She is famous for her numerous affairs with gods like Mars and mortal like and Ceres. Family relationship. Venus was married to the blacksmith god Vulcan, who her most famous affair was with Mars, the god of war. She is often accompanied by her son Cupid. She was reverenced as Venus, mothers seen as ancestress, and the Roman people through the sun, Anthesis. And she also served the protector of women, Chastity, Venus, the verticorda, this female sex organ, and symbols and association. Symbols include roses, myrtles, doves, scallops, and mirrors. She is associated with planet Venus and metal copper, which is bronze, and the day Friday. Hmm. So Adasa means myrtle, which is association with Venus, and she rises to power as queen, and Venus is the queen of heaven. And so these all are in association with the traditions of Babylon and all the traditions of all these imperial governments that they have adopted through tradition. And so the god of Babylon, which has been the head of this organization, this god that sits in the spirit realm as gold, is formulating a kingdom in the earth. Is formulating a kingdom, and it's been under a under guise. It's mystery. It's secretive, but it will rise to power. And when we look at the color purple, it's coming. It's all about coming into transformation, coming into a kingdom. I mean, when you come into this kingdom, you will have to be transformed. I mean, you can't be the same. You're not going to be the same. This is why systematically the traditions of life have been eroded away. And it says here, uh, it, because it says here, I read in my book, I'm talking about Ham seed, talking about the curse, the of Noah, that that Shem that Ham defiled Noah, uncovered nakedness, means sexual relationship. The offense happened to Noah. I believe Ham learned and forbidden a sex act to dominate Noah's house to bring shame. And Shem and Jacob covered it as the Mashiach, but Ham's seed was cursed to the fourth generation, which in that one thing, uh, in one of the articles about Purim, it said, was in the fourth generation. It said that the 13th day of Haman drew lots to pick the dates upon which the genocide would happen. The 13th of Adar, the month of Pisces, was the selected day for the mass extermination of the people remembered this date. So the 13th month of Pisces was selected, which, let me see. The story began. That's interesting. It says 13 means rebellion. 13 means, and Pisces means the traditional age. The traditional age, the year, it talks, it's all about astrology. We're in the 2,000 years of Pisces and want to go into Nirvana or Aquarius. Well, that will end the age of Pisces. So rebellion is going to be this removing of, and if you really look at the story, it's all about this Haman that one this cruel leader that wanted to set a decree because he was against Mordecai. So you look at these, you look like anti-Semitic or anti-Semitism, and because he had a an out with Mordecai, or a contention, or a dispute with him, or whatever. His anger was towards him. He took it out on the people, and he set up a decree and an authority to destroy all of his lineage. And it's almost like the reverse, though. If you look at it, this is what anti-Semitism is. Anyone who says anything about anything, which I'm not, but if you, it's but it's like in the reverse. You will be annihilated. You will be genocide. You will hang through the gallows. It's such a reverse of circumstantial things. I mean, it's everything has become reversed. The victim stance you becoming a victim, which sets laws in place to target individuals who are in disagreement. There was a disagreement, and so if you're not in a fully agreement, or if you speak not according to the aligned things, that if you don't speak according to what they want you to speak, then if you be targeted, or you speak as one of being prejudiced, which it has nothing to do with being prejudiced. It has nothing to do with generalized people, or a group, or an ethnic group, because been we're all humans, come from the same bloodline. We're no one's better than the other, but to gain dominance, to gain control, to be able to lord over, and to get an agenda, it's almost like the reverse, and so, and now, so you can see how the story has brought in so much uh, protection for one class, but no protection for the others. Like, one class of people get protected, but the other class doesn't. The other gets accused of saying this, but the other person that has no defense. See, this is where it's like the reverse psychology of all of it. Uh, so Mordecai is lifted, and Haman is hung, and Haman, it says, between the gallows. Well, that word gallow means flax. It means cedar tree, or trees, but it also means flax, which flax is not a tree. Flax is linen. Flaxseed is what comes from. So you're looking that this all has to do with Jesus Christ. This all has to do with his kingdom, and his superiority, heavenly superiority, and his, not only heavenly but earthly, and anyone that is claims him as King of Kings, Lord of Lords, King over the Jews, or King, then you're outside. You're outside, because this is not the agenda. This is not what we want. This is what's going to be annihilated. This is what's going to be destroyed. Anyone who claims the name of Christ, anyone puts him as king, anyone puts him as Lord, anyone puts him above as the true sovereign, the true Lord of Lords and King of Kings, and it's not in accordance to the agenda, then they are going to be the ones that will be singled out and targeted. That's really, if you read the hidden story, if you read the in between the lines, It's almost like it's put out there, but it's an agenda that is targeted to the nations. It's targeted to the people. That's why it's purple. That's why Mordecai was dressed in. It's not what it appears. It's not what it appears. It is speaking louder than it's subliminal. It's subliminal. It's speaking louder than what is being really said. And this is why this whole book, it's got hidden messages in it. Hidden messages that have to be interpreted. They have to be interpreted. So this is why it said in the fourth generation, or in the that this, or something like that. Can't remember. Let's see there. And it just kind of, so the in the fourth century BC. That's what it says. The Sabbat. In the fourth century BC, the story began with a grand feast that the king was throwing at the palace, and incancelable differences propelled the king to divorce and seek a new queen. In search of a new queen, the king commanded his men to travel throughout the kingdom in search of a lovely maiden, so that she could view them and choose the most beautiful to be the wife and new queen. Through this queenship, it's not kingship now, it's through queenship that they're going to rule. Around this time, there lived a gorgeous woman named Esther. She lived in a small province with her uncle Mordecai. She knew that being the queen of Persia would be the good for her people. So she prepared herself to be brought before the king. Once the king saw Esther, he stopped looking, and she became new queen of Persia. One day, while passing by the palace gates, Mordecai overheard two guards plotting a revolution. It's all about revolution. With the intent to kill King Xerxes, Mordecai informed Esther, and the militants were captured and executed. Mordecai saved the king's life. The king had an advisor named Haman. This advisor was power hungry and conniving. Haman's disliked the Israelites, especially Mordecai. When Haman would travel throughout the town, he expected the people to bow to him as was second in command to the king. Mordecai refused to bow. He refused to bow. In order to gain favor with the king and himself of Mordecai and his people, Haman devised a plan to kill to kill them all. Haman used his sharp tongue and twisted the thoughts of the king, alleging that Mordecai's people would cause problem for the king, and that the king should lead his seal to the petition to have them destroyed. The king authorized the genocide, and letters were written and sent to all the province of Persia bearing the king's seal. The 13, which means rebellion, of the month of Pisces, which means the year of Pisces, of this religious rule. Pisces, um, says occultists look forward to the age when this duality becomes one. Existence of one reality. The elites of the world today are expecting such a time, are trying to usher in this state of consciousness by indoctrinating the masses with this lie. Our world unwittingly helps propagate it, using an emblem, speaking of it in songs, and then programmed into pop culture to press people into yielding their members' bodies to the concept to concept concepts that there is soon coming an age of oneness, an age of immortality. They call it nirvana, and said it's freedom from endless cycles of personal reincarnation and consequence suffering, and the extinction of the individual passions, hatred, and delusions. The dual age of Pisces, with strife, hatred, and war. This is what Pisces means: strife, hatred, and war. Becomes the unified age of Aquarius, with oneness of love and peace. And your thoughts that was only in the 60s. The occult world religion will teach the world to follow the constellation to predict the future. In the new age astrological terms, they say we have recently, but they don't know exactly, moved from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius. The age of Pisces is the sign of two fish, was an age of duality, good and bad, right and wrong, us and them. But then says the age of Aquarius is the sign that has been long said to be water, but now many feel it's actually air. Shows that the unified and rarefied air of uh, intellectuals who use logic and science for the betterment of all. The two diametrically opposing reality, duality, merging into oneness, and the goal of the new world, the merging of light and dark, good and evil, men and women, and so forth. This oneness, the belief that Satan's lie in himself can create an age with harmonious society of freedom, social justice, and peace, living in a world free from the age of duality, deception, hidden ideas, misleading concepts, confusions, and illusions. And the religion, the age of Christianity. This is really what Pisces is, the age of Christianity and tradition, man's tradition, godly traditions, and man will do it, and to fulfill man's uh, goals of betterment, altruistic goals of betterment for all. Satan, the deceiver who rules over unregenerated man, sells the lie, and man can, by joining with kingdom, becoming enlightened enough to end the age of deception. Man's aspiration to fight God and his laws of creation is a dangerous lie from the kingdom of darkness, designed to bring a satanic force which will destroy natural and spiritual laws God designed specifically for a protection, and those who forsake the truth and will not be accountable to their creator. God will